Yeah, I think we're on.
Yeah, this is on?
Yeah.
Cool.
Amrit Birdi, thanks for coming to see me and do this podcast.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So we don't know each other very well.
We don't, but we've done a comic together, so we know each other somewhat. I'm keen to learn more about you.
Well, so yeah, I obviously work in games. You work in comics and illustration. I'm very interested in learning about your industry, and you've mentioned that you're interested in games. So this is kind of a two-way AMA.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. I mean, games and comics are kind of crossing over more and more, so it's kind of a space that's, I think, it's an exciting space more than anything to kind of cross-pollinate and things like that. In-game comics, kind of comics that are associated with games. Yeah, it's just really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, so we got introduced through Andy Ewington, who was involved in our Peaky Blinders game.
Oh, right, okay.
Because there are some aspects of that are comic influenced.
Yeah, of course.
Without giving away too many spoilers.
Okay.
And he's been great. He was a great advisor, and he introduced us to a couple of artists. And we had such a great time with that. We thought, let's do a comic for our new project. And so I went back to him and said, look, we need more. Who've you got?
Yeah.
And he recommended you.
That's really nice of him, first of all. Yeah, we've done a few pitches together, and he actually, I think he started working at the company that I was kind of just finished a project with, so it was the right time to kind of be recommended. So thanks, Andy. He's a very, very talented kind of creative designer. I mean, did you see his posters actually that he does?
Yes.
He did on Patreon. Yeah. They were great, weren't they? They were really, really good. And then of course the BBC News, was it BBC? I think it was BBC News, his cameo about Southern Train, is that what they're called? Southern Rail. Southern Rail, yeah. Yeah, he wasn't happy that day, but no,
I missed that.
He's a good guy. I love him.
So can you talk about the work you were doing there, or is that all under wraps?
It's out. So it was an in-game comic for the Man of Medan game, which was, I think it went through Bandai Namco. Is that the right way around? Bandai Namco?
Bandai.
Namco Bandai Namco.
I forget. I think it's, I don't know.
I don't know either. I think it's Bandai first. That's kind of how I'm probably wrong. But no, that was loads of fun, actually. I think it was 48 pages. And as you went through the game, it kind of, you found secrets and it unlocked the story within the comic. And it was kind of the backstory of the game, which was like really, really cool to work on, actually. Yeah, it was really, really good, actually. It was intense, but it was good. It was worth it.
And so we've been working with you on a 6-page comic, which I think is going to get shown or drip fed pretty soon.
Really excited to see it kind of out there.
Yeah.
It's very, very proud of it. I think it's a true collaboration of comics and games, and I think it looks absolutely awesome. We did our bit, and you guys came in, and you with the, I can't say too much at this point, obviously, but with the bits you added, it really, really brought it to life. I'm really, really impressed.
So I was, I think I said on a previous podcast that I really enjoyed the process of just that small number of people can turn around something quickly that is engaging. And it was an eye-opener for me that the product breaks down into 4 people, really. The writer, what would you call yourself?
I mean, traditionally in comics, it is around 4 or 5 people. You have kind of like traditionally you have the penciler, kind of the pencil artist that does a lot of the breakdowns and the anatomy and the framing and the kind of the detail, and then the inker will come in and kind of add depth, line weight, and which I believe used to be for kind of reproductive purposes. These days, enough artists to say a lot compress that into kind of just like a line art stage. So I do that. So I'm probably just the artist, the line artist, I guess, right. Which is kind of like, page flow,
storyboarding.
Yeah, storyboarding, and then kind of like the finishing with the lines as well. So you kind of like using line weights to add depth to kind of each of the panels, add textures, the flow of the page and how the panels kind of intersect, and how you guide the eye down the page with the text and the speech bubbles. That's something that I would say that is within this remit. And then it goes on to the colorist, and then the letterer, and then,
So you're thinking about where the speech bubbles are going to go before they're there?
Ideally, yes, because, I mean, I learned lessons very early on that if you don't leave enough room for speech bubbles, they don't fit. So it's one of those things where you just have to plan for it. And then also kind of the eye reads kind of left to right and almost like a Z format. So you kind of really want to be preserving the kind of the speech bubbles and where they sit in conjunction with the artwork to kind of like accommodate that as much as possible. And there's quite a lot of nuanced rules with kind of speech bubbles and things like that. But that's something that I like to do just so I know the space and things like that. So for the comic we did, I was drawing silly little squiggly boxes for my letterer to kind of like,
this is where I want it.
Yeah. But then she will come in and she'll look at the final art, and my stuff's only really a guide just so I know that it fits and just so I know that the flow's right. And then I leave it to her, and she's just excellent. Mindy's really, I've worked with her for maybe 5 or 6 years now, maybe longer, maybe 6 years. And she's excellent.
And do you have, because it's Amco Studio, right?
Yes. So it was, it started off as kind of me being, or at least trying to be, a freelance artist, and then being a freelance artist. But with the work I was getting, which was kind of graphic novels for through book publishers predominantly. So I worked with a YouTuber called Joe Sugg, who he was on Strictly, I think, last year or the year before.
Really?
Yeah, he's doing really well. He was great to work with, and I was working with a book publisher, and it was just, the deadline was just too much for me to hit on my own. So I was already working with the colorist and the letterer, and kind of brought them in, and it's like a production line almost. And 5 years later, we're a well-oiled machine, so we can churn out pages. Some projects 10, 12 pages a week, ideally kind of like 6 to 8 pages. Ideally, it was, that's not advisable or anything that I would recommend, but if you can, as an artist, it can help. It can definitely help to be able to do that fast. I think as long as you're honest with the publisher or the client, with the timeline on something like 12 pages a week, you really have to be saying that this is not going to look as good as if you gave us twice the amount of time. And if you're cool with that, we will follow the schedule, but it's less than ideal. But with our project, we had a good amount of time to do the 6 pages, which I think it shows in the end product, to be honest. I think it does really show in the end product. But no, that project, the project with Joe, I'm so proud of it. And looking back, that was kind of, I don't think I knew it at the time, but that was kind of the beginning of lots of cool work. So
when was that?
2014 or 2015? I think. Well, we were drawing it in 2014 at the end of 2014.
Is that sort of a breakthrough for you then? Do you see it as a breakthrough into that sort of work? What were you doing before that?
Before that, I was kind of, I think with creative stuff of any variety, a non-standard creative kind of work, there's a transitional period. So I was slowly transitioning into kind of more illustrative work, but I was still being creative. So I was still graphic design, web development for a bit actually, which was actually super fun. I'm a bit of a tinkerer, so I do like that. And I think, looking back, I think that taught me to be less focused on just the creativity, because it's also about churning the work out, and it's also about being logical, and it's also about and those kind of things kind of really weirdly fed into it. And then obviously we were just talking about SEO before this, but to have a bit of knowledge about SEO and web and social, it helped kind of go forward with that. And then it was called Username Evie, and it was can I remember the accolade? It was the fastest selling graphic novel since records began. I think, or something like that. That wasn't to do with me, but it was
Since records began.
Yeah, I know, right? But that wasn't to do with me as such. But the fact that the product was so well received was really great.
Cool.
And it was greenlit for a trilogy. I think 2 more books came out. And then from there, it's been a lot of brand work as well. So, apart from I did some Assassin's Creed covers for Titan, but we've worked with kind of like with Disney, we've just done some stuff for Adidas, Netflix, and entertainment brands like that.
So how does that happen? Do you just get calls? What?
Yeah, weirdly, yeah. And it's somewhat it still takes me back to this day sometimes, the cool kind of like emails and calls that come through. So, I mean, even having the opportunity to work with Adobe recently has been really, really great, in terms of like kind of what they're doing and how they boost their brand and elevate their profile and kind of, I mean, I've used Adobe products since I was 10, so 33 now. So 23 years, and having it's almost like Adobe's in my blood. So it's kind of like, it feels like a really, really full circle thing to happen.
So what are you doing for them? Can you say?
So at the moment, I'm what's referred to as an Adobe Insider. So I will work together on cool briefs. So I did a double page spread comic for Adobe and the Royal Shakespeare Company. We had to pick a Shakespeare text and obviously consult with the RSC and with Adobe and come up with my take on that classic story. So I did kind of like a futuristic dystopian version of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was really cool. It was loads of fun, and they were really great to work with. And I think through that I discovered a new art style as well, which happens from time to time, which is always nice. So that's cool work. And I mean, it's a mix between kind of comics and illustration, kind of on the promotional side, and then also concept art for things that I can't talk about so publicly, right, which is all NDA'd and things like that. Right.
So when you say you're working for brands, it's still within comics. You're still
I'd say it's actually, is entertainment the right word? So we did a I don't know if anyone remembers the film Midnight Special, but it's a good film, right?
Yeah,
it was really underrated.
It's unusual.
Really. I need to watch that again, actually. Michael Shannon was great in that. And the kid was very good. But so we did I think it was a 6-page kind of adaptation, or was it 4-page? An amount of page adaptation of Midnight Special, which was kind of nice for kind of like Warner Brothers, and their representative in the UK came to us and were like, oh, we need this for this. And it's kind of on the promotional kind of brand PR side of things. And we get a lot of work through those companies for that kind of thing. So we did some artwork for the Glass movie that came out.
Great.
Which was, that was lots of fun. And just things like that, really. So it's, I love it. I really do.
So you got started in when?
Well, I've drawn forever.
Okay.
So when I was a kid,
right,
my parents would give me a piece of paper and a pen to keep me occupied, and I just never stopped scribbling. And then it became a dream, and then as it became an adult, it became an even more distant dream, and then it was impossible, and then eventually it happened, which was really nice. So it was kind of like a perseverance thing. It was more of a stubbornness thing. It was like, I'm going to do this, and the world say no, and then you keep going, and then eventually it kind of like slowly but steadily happens. So 2015 was probably when I would consider it a full-time professional kind of like arena, like the arena of illustration and creative. But before then, I was still always drawing. I mean, looking back, I wish I'd have put my work out there sooner. So I didn't even start doing any kind of promotional things or showing people my work or attending events until I was about 25.
Right.
So that's fairly late, and it took a good 2 or 3 years before I was getting the work, and it can take longer, to be honest. So the earlier you start with that kind of thing, the better. You hear about all of these legendary comic artists who start 15, 16, straight out of school, just drawing pages, sending them, and I look back and I go, I wish I'd have done that, really. Right. But you can't really change that. So, 2015 was probably when I started.
So you got a busy year this year.
Last year was really busy. This year's going to be really busy. So we've got projects signed kind of throughout the year, and I'm just going to be getting on with drawing a lot of pages, a lot of pages. And I don't know, maybe something more with you guys if that's something that you wanted to have a look at.
I'd love that.
I'd love that too. I think 6 pages is a really good size to kind of do something like this. I mean, I know Titan Comics and Dark Horse Comics, they do kind of like game tie-in kind of like things with Assassin's Creed and with I'm trying to think of the other ones. Maybe Doom? Was it Doom? No, was it Doom? Maybe Doom. And I know there was did Call of Duty do an online comic for their last release? Someone did. But yeah, comics are becoming more of a thing within games, which is quite nice. Then obviously the Man of Medan thing as well, which was awesome. But yes, something that kind of like either cross promotes or offers the IP or the story or the narrative in some kind of different, not just an adaptation, which is, you know, fine, but something that actually adds to the overall tapestry, which is, you know, really, I think that's a good step to be making.
Yeah, I've seen a few projects that Andy was involved in were special editions of like physical box product, and you get a comic with it, which tells some of the backstory, which is a nice idea.
Yeah. Did he do a comic for? I've seen one of the comics.
Like Dark Souls, maybe.
Yeah, Dark Souls. Yeah. Dark Souls was cool, and I think he did I can't remember the game. SquareEnix game. But it was quite cool. It was quite cool. Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by the whole world, and I know nothing about it. And I tried to set up calls with Titan and Image and to see if we can do adaptations, maybe, because we're obviously doing Peaky Blinders now, and we're discussing doing another adaptation with another big entertainment.
The artwork of Peaky Blinders looks insane, by the way. I'm just going to say that here. Yeah, it looks amazing.
I can't remember what we've shown you. We'll show you some more later.
Okay, cool.
But it's nearly done.
Awesome.
So you've obviously been through this cycle a few times because you know a printer. You've got this rhythm of knowing what it's going to cost for a number of pages, what the turnaround is.
Yeah.
So how many, like, have you actually produced a comic with you and a couple of guys and gone and pitched it?
Yeah, I mean, pitching is something that's very, very regular. Very.
Yes, I do it every week.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I started off like, you know, really early on doing comics and anything illustrative. You kind of start doing your own kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, started kind of quite small, and it's slowly kind of like built up. And I kind of almost in a way look back and I went, there's a step that was skipped there, which was pitching what is referred to as a creator-owned book, and kind of usually what the typical trajectory, which is typical and it's very general, is you kind of like you do your self-published work, then you do a creator-owned book, for example, and then you kind of like start working with the larger publishers. Now,
so a creator-owned book would be
like an image book, for example. So it'd be something that a writer and artist come up with. They pitch it. They get, you know, yeah, we like it. Let's do it. And that's.
So when you say an image book, do you mean that's the publisher that deals in that sort of stuff?
An Image Comics book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So Image Comics are kind of they're probably the first stop for kind of creator-owned type books like that, because they've you know been established for so long, and they're really good at what they do, and they're really well placed in the market for those kind of things. I kind of in a way skipped that step because I was doing my own kind of quite small independent book, and then it just went straight to, you know, I think the second largest book publisher in the world all of a sudden.
Nice.
Yeah, but like tracking back, you know, I've been working with a couple of writers on a book that should be coming out late this year, or at least solicited late this year, maybe out next year, with a company called Action Lab Comics in the States. So I'm really excited about that. Cool. Yeah, I'm super excited. That's going to be a fun project to do.
And how many pages is that? Maybe
100-ish. I say 100-ish. They may listen to this and they may, no, it's 125, but I'm saying 100 right now. So I'm kind of like maybe 15-20% through that, which is looking really good.
And how did that come about?
I mean, I've known the writers for a while. I mean, I've met them. When did I meet them? I met Chris Baker. I met him at the very last London Super Comic Con, which was, I think, a really great comic event. It was purely about comics, but I think I don't know what happened. I think MCM seemed to be running the show now a lot more. But I met him there. We'd already spoken like previously, but that's when we properly spoke, I'd say. And then his kind of partner in crime, writer partner in crime, Matt Fitch, I met him maybe shortly afterwards or at the same event, and yeah, we got on really well. And they did a book called Apollo with Self-Made Hero, which are a really cool kind of UK publisher for kind of graphic novels and comics and things. And we started talking, and yeah, we pitched it to a few places, and in the end.
So when you say pitched it, how much is done by the time you pitch it?
For this, I think we did 6 pages.
Okay.
I think we did 6 pages.
Fully finished.
Yeah, okay. Cover, 6 pages, we might have done character sketches and things like that. So 6 pages, character sketches, cover art, and then, synopsis, issue breakdown, and any other things that editorial really kind of needs to know to kind of go, yeah, this is great. We love this. And that happened here, which was really nice. So we're working together. They're being really patient. Schedule wise, which is nice. Thanks guys. And so I'm really enjoying it. So I've got an assistant on that, and then the colorist and the letterer. So I'm going to say his name wrong. I met him for the first time. I've worked with him for about 6 years, and he came to London Film and Comic Con last year, and we met for the first time, having worked together for like 5 or 6 years. Which is
how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, it was really weird. But yeah, he's in Argentina. Joaquin, is that how he says it? He says it's differently. But yeah.
How's it spelled?
Joaq.
Joaquin.
Yeah, Joaquin. But
like Joaquin Phoenix.
There's more of a there's more of that. But lovely guy. He stayed with me for a few days. Really nice guy. It was so great to meet him. Hopefully he'll come again this year. And then Mindy, who's over in the States, I think near-ish New York. And then Maddie, who's my assistant. She is based in the UK. So so that's how
So when you say your assistant, she does ink and pencil as well?
With the volume of work that I kind of have to get through every kind of week or every month, she does. So I focus on the storytelling, which is like the page flow, and I focus on the lines, I focus on the framing, and I focus on the faces and the heads to get the style down. Maddie will do a lot of the kind of like the texture work, the kind of like the grey tone work. We do a lot of grey tone work, kind of this 2-step kind of grey tone work, which is
what we saw.
Yeah.
You start with blue, actually.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you start with blue?
That's kind of something inherited from the comic process. It used to be that you'd produce kind of an undersketch in blue line, because then when you photocopied it or scanned it, that specific tone didn't show up, so that it was quite cool. And
okay.
It's just something that I just do. Right. It's almost like a respect for that, but there's no real reason.
I might edit in some screenshots of that work you did.
That sounds cool.
So people can see it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool, actually. That sounds really cool. How about you? Anyway, I've been talking for ages. So
I've still got one more question.
Okay, go on.
So you had a 6-page comic and you pitched it to lots of publishers?
This was about a year ago, so I can't remember the details. We pitched it to 2 or 3.
Okay.
I think 2 or 3, not too many. And it's kind of one of those things where it depends on so many things, because normally the publishers will line, it's probably the same in games, but they'll line up their itinerary a year or 2 in advance maybe, and they might have something similar, or they might be developing for TV or film, and they're looking for something that's shootable, that's reasonable on the budget, etc. Shooting it for kind of like for film or TV.
Really?
Yeah, so something that kind of like works for the budget and things. So and then they might have a similar book coming out, or they might not be looking for that genre. It might just be over for now. And you know how Vampires makes a resurgence and goes away,
sure.
And Space came, that kind of thing, like market trends. So we ended up pitching it to Action Lab, and I think they were our first port of call, because I really like their books and I really like what they do. They do really kind of highly finished comics, and then they're established within kind of like the US comics market, and they were like, we like it a lot, so let's do that. And I think the guys, Chris and Matt, they were already doing a book with Action Lab, so it was kind of a foot in the door almost, so it seemed to work out nicely.
Cool.
Yeah,
because I'm thinking selfishly now whether we could get our comic pitched as an actual series of comics.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. Yeah, we should talk about that.
We should chat about that.
Yeah,
I know Simon's keen on that.
Yeah. How is Simon actually? Simon was good to work with.
He's good.
Yeah.
I think he's snowed under with shitloads of work.
Yeah.
He was sort of scraping hours here and there towards the end of it. But yeah, he's good. And, we built this world together, and I think he's pretty invested in it.
Yeah.
And
so how did you guys meet?
that's a good question. So how did we meet? So we've got a programmer who works remotely, lives in Birmingham, used to live in Glasgow. When he was in Glasgow, he worked with a guy called Simon Meek on a couple of projects before we hired him. And I think so his name's Gordon. Once he started working with us, he was like, I think you'd get on with Simon. Once he got to know me a bit better, he's like, you sort of think a similar way, and I think you'd get on well. I was like, whatever, too busy.
Yeah.
And then we got into a bit of trouble with Peaky Blinders, the writing on Peaky Blinders, because we'd done tons of iterations, and Endemol wanted another iteration. Right. I was like, we need another writer. So we met at Develop through Gordon, and the Develop conference in Brighton.
I do now.
Okay, yeah. So we're very lucky to have a games industry conference that takes place at the Hilton Metropole on Brighton Seafront every July.
That's a cool venue.
Yeah. It's really handy. So we met in the bar there, and we just hit it off. I showed him all of the projects that we wanted to make, including the project that we started FuturLab for. He showed me his projects, and we sort of fell in love with each other's stuff. So that was a given that we were going to do Peaky Blinders together. That was him hired.
Nice.
From that sort of 30 seconds of just meeting him.
Yeah.
But then we started talking about this other project we're doing, and he had some great ideas, and we thought, why don't I just go up to Glasgow and we can spend a weekend with a giant pad and his pens. And he very effortlessly managed to extract all the things that I think is cool out of my head over a period of about 8 hours.
Yeah.
And then smashed it all together and said, I think this is the direction that we should go in.
Nice.
I was like, this is amazing. I feel like I've done this work, but it's you that's done it.
Yeah.
It was all in my head.
Yeah.
But he drew the lines between it.
Team effort.
It was great team effort.
So when was that? Was that a long time ago? Or?
That was a good question.
Because you seemed like you've known each other.
No, we haven't.
Well, oh, really?
I would like to say it was around November time.
Oh, right. Not that long ago.
October, maybe.
That's not long ago at all.
No.
Okay.
And so we were getting ready to pitch our new game at GDC behind closed doors. And we were working together to flesh out the worldview, because it's something we've not really done before. We've never really thought, let's build a world from scratch.
Yeah.
What are the things that excite us, that we're inspired by? Let's build a world that reflects that.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the point of this, he said this would make a pretty cool graphic novel comic. Maybe we could use that as a vehicle to help flesh out some of the character attributes and some of the story and the look and feel. So that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But I hadn't read a comic since I was maybe 8 years old. I was completely out of the loop. And so I went to our local comic shop and I asked lots of questions, where to start, and I watched a few YouTube videos. How do you get into comics? And then, so got in touch with Andy and then found you. And I was really surprised by the process, because Simon had put together maybe 5 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Something really, really loose. So really, is that all Amrit needs?
Yeah.
And then you came back with a storyboard. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
That's all he needed.
I mean, to be fair to Simon, he you know what? He did a really good job of pacing it all out, but also the references were of great utility.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a text script with abstract visual ideas to kind of get down onto paper. There was a good visual basis to kind of guide. So I mean, between you both and whatever conversations you had before I got involved was really, really useful. I think it was a good guide. And it's always one of those things where,
you can write a sentence on paper and 5 people will look at it, and there is 5 different versions of that in the 5 people's heads. So there was back and forth between kind of some of the more abstract ideas, but I think it worked really well. You and Simon were so involved and so able to kind of like put your ideas across and to kind of enhance them that, it just worked really, really well. I mean, I think the one thing about comics, which I don't know if it's the same in games, it's slightly less iterative than other forms of media, only because everything is drawn very, very precisely based on kind of one thing. And it's almost, I've been looking into this for a while and using kind of like 3D environments to kind of create a more flexible process. So that is something that's in the works at the moment.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just to be able to, it's more flexible now doing it digitally than it used to be. But just to be able to just, create the rough storyboard with kind of like 3D models, be able to really quickly change things before you commit to anything. I would love to do a lot more of that, to be honest. I really, really would. But I mean, the things you can do to kind of streamline that is, as you start a new project, you can create kind of visual assets and backgrounds and things like that will then, number one, create a cohesive visual product, and number two, the more you get through a project, the faster the pages tend to become. So I did a project that's coming out in May for the new Alex Rider graphic novel, which I think is going to be a TV show at some point. It was a movie years ago, and it's going to be Anthony Horowitz done a lot of novels, and this was a project that came my way through my agent. And what was happening was that the further through the project I ended up going, the faster it all became because of these visual assets that you kind of create up front. So, if you're doing maybe 1.5 pages a day, you might start off spending, just doing a page a day to get those assets down. And then as you go through, you can kind of speed up. So it's, just little things like that. But I would love to create a more fluid approach to kind of comics, just so everything's not locked out. It's effectively, it's creative assets for print. So it's all drawn very manually, and I'm still trying to think of the best way to kind of like get over that hump. But it will happen.
Maybe Dreams. Yeah, Media Molecules Dreams.
Oh, maybe.
It's so quick.
Is it?
The art tool is so quick.
Okay, I'm gonna have a look at this.
You can just sculpt with your hands.
Oh, nice.
It's like clay, but
is it 3D? Is it 3D?
Faster.
Has it got the?
Yeah, it's 3D.
Okay.
But screen grab.
Yeah.
Be really quick.
I'll have a look.
Change the camera up, whatever.
I'll for sure have a look. That sounds really, really. That's a good.
I think people are using it to make short films in it.
Are they?
Yeah.
I mean, technology's come so far in the last 5 or 6 years, but the last 10 years really. In you can buy software for a few £100s or dollars, and you've got high grade equipment to produce things that
like the iPad.
Like the iPad. Did you work on the iPad?
No, but seeing you work on it makes me want one.
They're great. They're really, really good. I mean, I do very much like, is it Wacom or Wacom products?
Wacom, yeah.
Wacom, but I love them. I think the precision and they've really got their hardware down to it. It's just an absolute T. It's just so perfect. The problem with the Wacom is that it's less mobile. I know they've got their Mobile Studio Pro and they have the Companion. I had a few issues with the reliability on the Companion and the battery kept dying, so I switched to a Surface Pro, and then the iPad came along, and it feels a bit like working on glass, to be honest, to start with. It's like drawing on glass, which is not the same as paper at all.
I suppose the Wacom's got some fiber to the screen. It feels like,
it has, and it's just it's perfect. And maybe it's what you learn on first that's perfect to you. I've spoken to people that much prefer the iPad to the Wacom, for example. But ultimately, I think once mastered your trades are really broad. I mean, once you've done it for long enough, you realize that it's just about mark making. So you've just got to make the same mark across the devices and you'll mostly be fine. So now I pretty much draw on the iPad. So I'm flying to LA tomorrow and I'm just going to be drawing pages on the plane. So
tell me about your trip. If you can.
It's a combination of things. It's like a bit of a getaway, a bit of work, and really, I think I've just always wanted to spend some time out there for a while. So I was out there a few weeks ago, kind of a couple of meetings, and yeah, I'm looking forward to going.
Is it a bit of a mecca for comics, or?
I would say I think Seattle/Portland is probably if there was a mecca for comics, it would probably be that place. There's a lot of comics people there. I know there's a few publishers that are based there as well. But Marvel are based in New York, DC are based in I think they're based in LA, and then there's publishers further up the coast. And yeah, I think the West Coast is a good place for comics generally. Yeah, it is. What about games?
Where's the mecca for games? I don't think there is one really, because it's global, and there are pockets of what we call them clusters. Brighton's a cluster for games.
It is a cluster for games. I've noticed that.
Guildford's a cluster for games. It tends to be big studios that have backing from big publishers or platform holders that for some reason go out of business.
Oh, right.
And small companies spring up as a result of all that talent being in the area.
I see. So what people from those companies will then start their own. Yeah. Okay.
That's certainly what happened in Brighton with BlackRock, the Disney studio.
Right.
Lots of black pebbles sprung up from BlackRock.
Really, that's really interesting. And how did that play out?
Well, lots of companies got made. Lots of games got made. Some of those companies got bought.
Yeah.
I think we've got 30 game studios in Brighton.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So how does it work in games? Is it a similar approach with the pitching and the ideas, like the early ideas that then kind of go on to be? How does that work?
I'm not sure it's the same as comics, because there's a certain amount of overhead that you've got running a studio.
Yeah.
And you need dedicated staff.
Yeah.
So you've got a team you have to sustain. So the ideas you come up with have to match the team size that you've got. With a comic, I imagine if you've got 4 people, you can make a story. And you can make a product.
Deadline dependent, yeah.
Yeah. And there's such a range of different budget scales on a video game that, yeah, sure, you can have 2 or 3 people or just one person.
Yeah.
If someone can program and do art themselves and maybe do some music themselves, then they can pitch to a publisher, or they can self-publish on Android or iPhone.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And actually, Xbox digital storefront and PSN themselves, but generally it tends to be teams of 3 upwards. So for us, we're now at a stage where every idea we come up with has to support our whole team.
Interesting. Okay.
And the more you grow, the bigger the ideas have to get.
That's interesting. Okay.
And the bigger ideas have to get, the longer it takes to convince someone to pay you to do that.
Yeah. So is it always the money follows the idea, or is it ever the money's up comes first? Sometimes,
you get approached by, for example, Curve came to us. They knew that they wanted to do a Peaky Blinders game. They got the license and they put it out to tender for 10 different studios. They pitch. We won the pitch.
Yeah.
And so that's paid for on milestones.
Right, okay.
So we schedule out the project, best guess. And we, at major milestones, we deliver work and they pay us against that.
Okay. And the schedule, how easy is that to stick to in games?
It's notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
So I think the way we've managed to continue to make good quality product and generally being able to stay in business is that we have very tightly conceived ideas. I won't say simple, because Peaky Blinders is far from simple, but the concept is at least well contained. Everybody can understand what the concept is. Early doors. And then we prioritize what's most important to deliver that concept. What's the minimum that we need so that the player can experience that idea.
Like an MVP type thing.
Exactly, MVP.
Yeah.
And then inevitably things take longer.
Yeah.
Because, everyone on the team can use best guess on how long something's going to take, but it's a series of problems that have to be solved.
Yeah.
Video games is problem solving.
Yeah.
So there's lots of iteration. And so what we do is we start cancelling stuff in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we're always working on the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've made a single game where we've actually not had to cut something significant.
Of course, yeah. It gets to the point of, done not perfect in a way when deadlines come down to it.
Yeah.
I mean, are you able to kind of do releases on those games to kind of add those bells and whistles that you wouldn't otherwise?
Many studios do that. We haven't done that, mainly because we've been working with a platform holder or publisher that sees a standalone product that needs to be finished and fully formed by the time we publish it.
That's fair.
But I imagine if we had a super hit, like Peaky Blinders did gangbusters, Curve would be saying, well, what else can you do?
Yeah.
To add bells and whistles.
You could add a comic. I don't know.
Well, DLC is it used to be a common thing. You do DLC, so extra levels or extra characters, and that you could either be paid for or just come free. But what's more common nowadays is to have a game that is just considered a live service.
Right.
So you release the game with every intention of just continuing to build it based on player feedback.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Which is a huge undertaking.
What's a good example of that in the games world, say, in the last couple of years? I don't know.
Well, I mean, No Man's Sky.
Okay, yeah.
It's not necessarily a games as a service, but they've continued to improve it.
Interesting.
I think they sold so many units and so many people were disappointed that they committed several years to achieving the vision that they initially had. And it's been one of the best success stories of a product that's been turned around.
That's incredible to hear, actually. That is, I mean, I was waiting for, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. I was waiting for Final Fantasy 15 for maybe a decade. I think it was Versus 13, then it was 15, and then it came out. And I liked it, but, the feedback was so-so. And then they did the DLC thing, and they kept improving it, and they had this online version, and they were going that path, and it was getting better. It was getting more cohesive. I mean, it was this experience where there was so much backstory and so much, you could feel the development, the undercurrent of this kind of narrative that just never quite came to the surface, and they did start to improve it, and then they just pulled it. I think they stopped and they pulled a bunch of the DLCs, and it kind of went away for Final Fantasy VII Remake. So that was kind of not quite the same redemption story, but yeah, I do like DLC stuff. I think it's cool to kind of like, product extension wise from a business angle, and for the kind of the consumer to be able to explore more of that world. I think it's a really
There's also something called early access. Which you've probably heard of.
Yeah, I'm the sucker that pays for that usually.
Right. So I think one of the best success stories recently is Dead Cells.
Okay.
So they released a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and it was almost a finished game. And then they just iterated and iterated and iterated based on community feedback. And now it's one of the best games I've ever played.
Wow.
It's so sticky.
Wow. So did they do the feedback before they released the game?
So they released it into early access, so you can buy it.
I see, early access. Okay. And is that to a limited scope of is that a small?
Generally, it's limited scope, but I think they'd actually pretty much had a finished game.
Wow, okay.
End to end, but they just continued improving the algorithm because it's procedurally generated.
And how does that affect timelines and things? Surely that affects timelines.
There's no plan of that.
Yeah.
Well, from an outsider, I'd be surprised if you can plan that stuff.
How long it takes to get the feedback, and how long the feedback takes to implement, and then how good or bad the result is. There's lots of flexibility in that timeline. And is that so? Who normally does that? Is that something that would you look to do something like that? Or?
Yes, it takes quite a lot of independence to be able to do that. And traditionally, we've been funded by a publisher or a platform holder.
Yeah.
And because we've yet to have a hit, we're beholden to that. So we have to be careful about projects that we fund ourselves.
I see.
We have to make sure that we've got the bills paid and the lights, keep the lights on from paid work.
Yeah.
So we're in talks with. So we've done Peaky Blinders. It's coming to an end. The next project we're talking about is another licensed IP.
Oh, cool. Talk about that off air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about that later. Which is very exciting. But that gives us some cover to be able to develop this game that we're doing with you. So I think for the first time ever, we're going to start releasing assets for a game we've not signed yet.
That's cool.
It's frightening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, I've not wanted to do it because I don't know, there's something in my hindbrain that says don't show anything in the world unless it's definitely going to happen.
I mean, there's the build it and they'll come mentality, but these days that doesn't play out so well. It's almost like build it, show people, they'll come, and then they'll buy it eventually. It seems to have adapted slightly. I don't know. I'm just, I mean, I think that's quite exciting. I know what you mean. I guess is it from kind of like a reputational brand perspective then that's the concern?
Yeah, and also just letting people down.
Yeah.
Because you probably didn't see because we didn't know you then, but a couple of years ago, we became very vocal about a game called Velocity Supernova.
Oh yeah. I saw some of the artwork.
Did you?
Yeah.
Right.
I think you showed me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a sequel to a very popular game that we made called Velocity 2X, which we've pitched everywhere. Like anyone worth pitching to, we've shown this game. Velocity 2X did 90 Metacritic, got 2 million downloads.
Wow. It's
got a great fan base. We won some awards. It won Game of the Year award on its target platform Vita.
That's cool.
PlayStation Vita.
Love the Vita.
So
it was
great.
That was good.
Great device.
Yeah. Sorry.
Paved the way for Switch.
Yeah, right.
And we built a big fan base with that game, and we love it. And so it felt like a reasonable bet that we could do a sequel. So we upped everything. I don't know if you know, but Velocity 1 was a top-down shoot-'em-up.
Okay.
Velocity 2X was the sequel, and we added platforming.
Cool.
And we massively upgraded the visuals. So that was a surprise for people because we could have done a sequel that was just more of the same.
It sounds like GTA 1 versus GTA 3 kind of thing almost in a way.
Well, it's ambitious.
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
It was an ambitious thing, adding a whole different genre. So you could fly around in your ship, dock your ship and jump out on foot, and it's instantaneous. There's no
really
loading
cool.
times.
That's nice.
And the gameplay was integrated so that everything you could do in your ship, you could pretty much do on foot as well. But it was brave and it was ballsy and it paid off. So for the third game, we went up a notch again.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to surprise people and keep people excited.
Yeah, for sure.
So when we were showing publishers, it was very much, Velocity 2X did this, it's got this many downloads, critically acclaimed, it's got a fan base. This is what we're doing next. And the response was, it looks fantastic. How did it sell? And the problem was that Velocity 2X got given away for free on PlayStation Plus for a month.
I see.
So it was cannibalized. Sales were cannibalized because everyone who had PlayStation 4, if they wanted to play online, they had to buy PlayStation Plus subscription, which meant they got the game for free. So then conversation just go cold because people are not interested.
I mean, even with the user base there, the people that played or completed, I mean, there's probably, I don't know if there's metrics or data on that. Like that sounds like a good
Well,
thing.
I think it was at least 100,000 people. No, 970,000 people played until something like level 30.
How many levels were there?
50, which is a pretty good
60%. Yeah,
it's a pretty good drop off.
Yeah.
So, but because you pitch to what's called the gatekeeper. Well, it's not a very nice word, but we use the word gatekeeper at a big company.
It's a fair word.
Yeah. You get someone that goes to the conferences and they meet all the developers and they cast their net pretty wide and they get a load of pitches. They see tons of games and they go back to their bosses and they present a case for why this game should be made.
Yeah.
and it never got past that because of the sales were so low.
I see. That's
So,
disappointing.
And we've yet to show that game. And lots of people have said, why don't you just do a Kickstarter? I'm like, we could, but that is the last resort. Because once you do a Kickstarter, if it fails, it's proof that nobody's interested.
Yeah, I mean, Kickstarter's an art form in itself.
And it's timing.
Yeah. Mixed feelings about Kickstarter as it is, but yeah, Kickstarter's it's an interesting dragon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so where's it at now? Would you?
So I'm tempted to just show it, because we're sort of over it now.
Yeah.
And it's quite impressive, but
I'm not going to lie. You don't sound like you're entirely over it.
Professionally, we have to be over it.
I get it. Yeah, I understand. I do understand.
My heart's
sinking. Yeah,
not quite there.
No, I understand. Labor of love.
So, showing this new game that we're working on now before we've got it signed feels like a risk. But fuck it. Only live once.
Yeah. You know, things like that, they're kind of like, I'm going to use the word failure. I don't mean but personal, something that doesn't get to the point that you want it. Only you remember that. No one else actually cares. And, you know, they this is what I've noticed anyway. Only you remember those wounds. No one else is too bothered. They're just waiting for the next kind of cool thing that you come up with, is what I've found. So do it. Do it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's starting next week.
Oh, so it's already in the works. It's already going to happen.
Yeah. So
can you reveal plans on how you're going to, what you're going to do there?
Well, so this is the interesting thing. Well, I think is interesting that we're producing a comic to flesh out the ideas for a game. And I'd like to bring people along in that journey to help us figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and we've got a small marketing department of 2 people who've spent the week, well, they spent about a month actually, looking at all the assets that we've developed so far and thinking what's the best way and where are the best channels to put these assets. And so they're coming up with a plan. I haven't really seen it yet. All I know is that I have to just approve it.
Nice. I'd love to have a look, see what they've come up with. I don't know if there's anything I can do to help in that respect, but if there is, genuinely let me know. We're
certainly going to start with a comic.
Awesome.
Because that's where it started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to, because I'm genuinely interested in seeing if we can find a publisher that would be interested in taking the comic and developing it as a standalone piece of entertainment. Because, well, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be very cool.
But also, that might be a path to having some sort of animated version of it.
I mean, it's very animatable. It would look really great with some motion. It really, really would. I mean,
have you gone down that road with any of your stuff?
Let me think. I've produced assets for animations and things in a simpler style, slightly simpler style, very layered PSDs, and it was almost like premeditated. This is an animation, so it needs to be delivered in this way. I've not done an actual motion comic start to finish. I'm surprised that people don't do more, and I know people have tried this. I know large publishers have tried this, and there was, I've forgotten what they're called now, but there was this whole scrolling motion comic thing years ago that should have been awesome, and I just never quite picked up, and I don't know why. I think it was during the transition of kind of print comics to digital comics. Now, I mean, I don't know who's going to hate me and love me for this, but I love the digital consumption aspect of everything. I find it just a much more, what's the word? It's just an easier, convenient experience. It's I've got 1,000 comics on my iPad, and try carrying 1,000 comics around London. It's not going to happen, and I just find that just great. And the back catalogue, and there's
what reader do you use?
I use Comixology.
Okay, yeah, same.
Mostly, yeah, which is a really cool.
It's cool, yeah.
It is cool, yeah. But I know Amazon. I think it's Audible, right? I think. Do Amazon own Comixology?
Yes, they do.
They do. Yeah. So I mean, Audible, you buy it on Amazon, and then the graphic novels I've worked on haven't been distributed through Comixology. It's almost like they're two separate markets. You've kind of got the book market, and then kind of the comic distribution market, which is mostly stateside. So the book market kind of goes to Amazon, and it's kind of Audibleable, and then the comics market's Comixology. So it's it's an interesting one. But I love the digital consumption. I'm not sure that digital sales are necessarily released or quantified in kind of general comic sales. I'm not 100% sure on that. I wouldn't, unless you kind of like you are the publisher. I don't think you ever really know. But yeah, I would pioneer digital consumption for comics, and to add animation and things like that's really, really cool. I mean, there's Webtoon or Webtoons. They are, I think they might have one of the biggest audiences online for
not heard of that
for comics. Yeah, they've got two sides to it. So they do approach creators, and they kind of pay advances and things like that for digital publication. It's what's very different about it is it's not kind of left to right page turn, it's scrolling. So it's scrolling panel by panel by panel, and I think the impression I get as it started off was a lot of webcomics, and it built traction in that way, and the audience is actually huge on Webtoon. Like I would recommend it for anyone, not even just starting comics, but someone that wanted to maybe build an audience for a Kickstarter or build an audience for a graphic novel. I mean, I would say give some or all of the material away for free, collect the graphic novel at the end, and then that's how I would see that working. And that's just theory for me for now, but I know there are creators out there that do things like that. Webtoon, yeah. Check it out. They've got huge huge traffic.
So a scrollable comic, is that done with HTML5? Like animation just happens as you scroll? Like an Apple website?
I don't think there's any, like a Parallax website, I don't think there's any movement.
Right.
I don't know if there can be or can't be, but the ones I've seen, it's static.
Okay.
You scroll, and it's almost like a panel by panel experience, and there's it's kind of spaced out nice. I think, off the top of my head, an average episode or issue is kind of maybe 40 or so panels. But I mean, if you were to consider that when you're drawing a comic, if you were to consider the paneling to work vertically as well, or if you were to consider the easy separation of those panels, and it's fairly easy to separate anyway, it just takes a bit more time, like a bit of time to like chop things and move things around, like the lettering. It's not too hard to put onto Webtoons. Anything onto Webtoon actually. It's so far I seen it seems all right.
I saw have you heard of Ruiner, the video game?
No, I haven't.
It's this super hardcore cyberpunk top-down shooter.
Oh, nice.
And with a really slick art style.
Yeah.
And I just stumbled across their website because I was just seeing how they did a certain thing. And they have a scrollable comic, which is one giant scene of a skyscraper.
Yeah.
You start to the top with scene setting, showing that it's cyberpunk and it's in the future.
Yeah.
And as you scroll down, stuff moves in and flies out.
That's cool.
And it's awesome. It feels like a story version of like an Apple product page where you see all the specs come in. And
I mean, that's really, really cool. I've yet to see a good example of that. I know there's been a few startups that have tried to create something like that. It's like almost like a Comixology Plus type thing, Comixology with animation. It's
exciting.
It is really exciting, but it has yet to, unless I'm just completely not in the know and someone can correct me, I've yet to see one that's actually kind of picked up the same traction as a printed comic or as Comixology, for example. I think there is a super simplicity to Comixology because it digitizes the traditional method of consumption. It's not different. And it zooms in panel by panel as you would read it, turns the page. And
it's a bit pixelated though, isn't it? It
can be sometimes. It can be. I don't know if that's to do with Retina display as hardware's improved. I don't know if the digital image has improved. I'm not sure on that. But yeah, it can be sometimes, yeah. It shouldn't be though. I think a lot of the top tier publishers, kind of the Marvels, the DCs, the Image.
Oh, they sorted out.
I think so, yeah, from what I've seen.
Right.
But I haven't noticed too much on that.
I've been reading Lazarus.
Oh, yeah.
Sci-fi, shooty, fighty thing.
Is it pixelated?
Pixelated, yeah. It's a shame. Because a really nice art style.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
Sort of...
ruins the experience, the entire experience, pixelation on artwork.
It does a bit.
Yeah.
So, can you go to a comic shop and see books that you've illustrated?
I would say not so much recently, because it's more book market, graphic novels for book publishers that I've done. So Alex Rider, for example, is through Walker Books. I know, so it'd be Waterstones, it'd be W. Smiths, it'd be...
But you can go in there and see
Barnes
your
and
work.
Noble. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's really cool. When Username Evie came out in 2015, and the sequel books, I had people kind of going, "Oh my god, your kind of artwork's on the shelf. That's so cool." Kind of, it was really cool. It was cool and it was nice, but you quickly move past it, and then you realize, actually, I've got deadlines to kind of get on with here, and I've actually got to keep producing good work, and I've got to be getting better. So it becomes less about and
Now you're a professional.
I think so. Yeah. A manic professional. I take a moment to stop and go, yeah, that's awesome. But it's a fleeting feeling. I don't know. Is it similar when a game comes out and there's reception? Like it's so nice to feel that, and it's so nice that people enjoy it. It's so nice that you're inspiring people. But if you focus on that too much, it becomes too much about ego, and it doesn't become about getting better.
Yeah.
So I try and just go, okay, so people liked that. So this visually is good. So what can I take into the next thing?
Yeah. And
what do I just hate about this that I can improve for the next thing? And that's kind of...
It's just a learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely is, yeah.
So in terms of how you getting paid for your work?
How?
So I imagine you get a fee up front.
Yeah.
And then do you get royalties per unit sold, or?
It depends on the project. There's different agreements with different kind of royalties and things like that, but that's normally, most ideally you'd get kind of an advance and a royalty. So you would have an advance fee which earns out once the sales comes in, and then once after that's earned out, the royalty kicks in after that. So you're not getting paid all over the place, but you're getting paid reasonably, and that is nice for so in kind of I'd say the Image Comics kind of scope for creator-owned books. As I understand it, the publisher takes a flat fee off the cover price, and then the rest kind of goes to the creator. It's a similar thing with the Action Lab thing that I'm doing. With the book publishers, they tend to offer advances up front, and they're really looking to to buy out the copyright in effect, really, which is normally when kind of the royalty comes in after the sales and things. So yeah, that is usually the way it works.
And I've got a technical question.
Okay.
About the royalty. Yeah. So let's say
50%. No, I'm kidding. No.
Let's say you've got, I know nothing about this, so this is just finger in the air. Let's say your royalty is 10%, right? Does your advance earn out of 10%, or does the royalty earn out? Does the advance earn out on 100%?
As I understand it, it earns out on the fee received. So if you receive, nominal figure of £100, it's not £100. I'm going to use £100.
Sure.
Once the sales hits that figure and the publishers earn back the advance they've paid, then the 10% kicks in, I think, on the cover price.
Okay.
I think that's how it works. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. So video games used to work a few years ago. Let's say it's £100, and the developer has 10%, which is wildly high.
Yeah,
it's not usually like that.
Same, just yeah.
What I didn't realize, because we joined the industry after this, but what used to happen was, let's say the developer's due 10%, the publisher would be taking 90%, and they continue taking 90% until your 10% is added up to what the advance was.
Oh, right.
Which is a bit cheeky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually.
That's how it used to work.
So how long?
Took forever.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Basically never get anything.
That's wow. Okay. I don't think I'll read the contract again. Actually, I don't think That's how I do need to have a look, actually, now that you've mentioned
It's changed now.
But has it changed for the better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So does it work in a similar way to kind of as described?
Yeah, what normally happens is the deals we've signed with publishers have been 100% recoup. So the publisher makes back 100% of what they spent, and then you start sharing in the royalty.
100% on top?
No.
Oh, just
whatever they spent, they need to earn back 100% of that.
break even.
Yeah, break even.
Okay.
And then they start sharing with you.
Okay. That's nice. That's
which
nice
I think honestly, I think that's fair when they're taking a hell of a lot of risk.
They're taking the risk. Actually, it's actually incredibly fair. Actually, come to think of it, 'cause they are not even really getting to the point of profit before sharing, which is nice. That's very reasonable. And then, but for you guys, I mean, it's not an incentive, I guess. You're going to produce a good game, obviously. You're going to have, you actually have a real vested interest in that as well, in a way, kind of thing. It kind of works.
If you've got a royalty at the back end, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just not just,
it's a carrot.
Yeah, exactly. It is a carrot, and it's a good carrot. It's a healthy carrot. Carrots are good for you.
So you're working on a book which is 120 pages. 100 pages.
Yeah, 100. We'll go with 100.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling myself, because it sounds more. But no, I mean, in 2017, we actually did 2 graphic novels side by side, both 180 pages, both for kind of, high profile YouTubers. So it was Joe Sugg again, and then I don't know
what happens there. YouTube. What interest has a YouTuber got in a comic? How does that work?
I mean, I think for Joe, I think it was genuine interest in. As I remember it, he wanted to do a comic.
Okay.
He wanted to do a comic instead of it being a book. He wanted to do a graphic novel. I think he liked kind of Watchmen and things like that, and he just wanted to do a comic.
Cool.
And which was awesome.
Yeah.
And
it's got every right.
Yeah, really, yeah. And it was kind of like
sounds an accusatory question, but not really.
Yeah, no, it was. I think there was a lot of YouTube books coming out, and I think what made this different was the fact it was a graphic novel. The audience was quite young, or going up to kind of YA. Comics were, or at least the superhero films.
Sorry, what's YA?
Oh, kind of young adult type.
Okay.
Young adult. Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine.
And a lot of the superhero films were coming out and raising the profile of comic characters. And although they're movies and they're completely different to kind of, or somewhat different to the comic versions of those characters, it was just all became a very big pop culture thing. And I don't know if that was the reason for the choice, but I did genuinely sense passion from him on doing the graphic novel and doing the comics. And it became I'd say Alice in Wonderland for a digital age, which is quite a concise way to put it. It took me years to kind of get there with that, to kind of explain what it was about. But
do you find that when you show someone, they tell you what it is?
Yeah, to a degree, but I mean, it's kind of like, I'm a visual guy. I do the doodles, so I draw stuff. And so someone goes, "What's it about?" I'll go, "No idea." Right. But I do, obviously. But I've experienced it in a really different way.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it from the ground up. I've developed the visuals. I've kind of told the story. So I'm kind of like coming at it from a very technical, analytical point of view.
Same.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. When we're making a game, all the way through, we're thinking, "Where's the hook?
Yeah.
What's the tagline for this game?"
Yeah.
And we go through all sorts of shit ideas, and then we show some press.
Yeah.
And straight away they go, "Oh, it's this and this and this," and you go, "I'm having that."
Yeah, thanks.
And that becomes your tagline.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's. The writer usually really is driving that in terms of what it's about and where it's going, and then it's kind of down to someone like myself to pace it out visually and to keep the visuals consistent and to tell that story in kind of a not dramatic manner, but in an appropriate manner. I guess it might not always be dramatic. I mean, probably should be at points, but. So I go into it. I see the script as, I'll be really honest, I tend not to read scripts up front because I don't find it of any use whatsoever. The script is a list of instructions for me to follow and visualize on a page. I'll read a synopsis. I'll read.
Oh, interesting.
I want to. This isn't exclusive to all artists. This is literally just me.
That's
I'm lazy.
Yeah.
Not lazy. No, it is. But I want to digest the whole story in a page or two. I want to know where this is going, or even a scene by scene breakdown. So if there's a scene that's 10 pages, I want to read 300 words on what happens in this scene. I want to get to know the characters through that. And then the script is really just a set of directions to me. It's not even...
So the way that Simon did it for you was ideal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He wrote a comic script. He wrote a really well broken down script.
I'm such a noob.
It's okay. No, it's okay. But there's different projects. I mean, I think the more... he knew what he was doing.
Clearly. Yeah, he did.
Like, he really did. But I think, I've worked with writers who have just done a page breakdown. I've helped writers break down paragraphs into pages and panels. And really, it's an interesting one. A lot of comics writers will own the panel breakdown and the page breakdown. And I think it's awesome because it starts with them, and because there's a pacing aspect to it as well.
Right.
And it is important for the writer to be able, but there is an element of me that thinks, why isn't the artist doing the breakdowns? And why isn't the writer focusing on the broad storytelling per page? And why isn't the artist deciding this will work in 9 panels? Yeah. And there is an element of that. Yeah. Right? So every writer I've worked with, there isn't one writer that I've worked with that hasn't gone totally open to ideas here. Whatever you think works, let's kind of have a look. So, we did the kind of the blue line kind of rough breakdowns. Yeah. And there was a back and forth. Like, I think I added a panel on one of the pages, for example. I think.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And it threw off the lettering, yes, but it was something that I thought worked well for the grid and the structure. And you guys, I think you liked it. Well, we're here, so
it was all good.
Yeah,
I loved it. But I love your work.
Oh, thank you so
much.
And
everyone, I think. A few people were a bit sad that they had to leave before you got here.
Oh, really?
They would have liked to said.
I've been hanging around Brighton Station since about 4 o'clock. I could have come by. Yeah, that was super early. Yeah. So next time I'll definitely. Well, I'm landing in Gatwick in a few weeks, so I'll see if you guys are around. If I'm not too much of a zombie, I'll try some way.
I think we need to figure it out. We need to figure out a way to work together again.
For sure, I think we really do. I think it'd be really cool. I mean, the in-game comic for the Man of Medan game was awesome to work on. That kind of stuff is so cool because it was almost kind of like it could be a printed graphic novel. It was an in-game graphic novel, and they used kind of a comicsology style, kind of guiding down the page. And I think they added sound effects and voiceovers as well. I think voiceovers. And it was a cool experience because it was kind of artwork plus all of these other like media elements that wouldn't normally be within a comic. And that as a pool of kind of, I don't know, all those different elements working together. I mean, I played the game, I unlocked the secrets. I couldn't unlock all the secrets, so I had to YouTube the actual end product because I couldn't unlock them all. But stuff like that is I mean, I do that again.
Have you ever done a sort of creative cabin hideaway sort of deal with a writer?
Creative cabin hideaway?
It
sounds like a horror movie.
It could be a horror movie. It's also sort of a romantic idea that you just rent somewhere in the sticks, like in Scotland, tippy-toppy Scotland.
You're going to send me to see Simon in Scotland?
Well, we've been chatting about it.
I've not.
I think Simon did it, actually. I think he took a week or two, or maybe a week to finish a piece of work he was working on it, and it worked out. And have
I done that? I've probably done that in to a lesser degree, like in a few hours sit down meeting session, sketchy type thing. Like we did a Skype with Simon in London, and I was doing a few kind of sketches, slightly more elaborate than that. But I'd do that. Yeah, definitely do that.
Like a from scratch brainstorm.
Yeah,
a world.
Will there be beer?
There'd be loads of beer. Okay. And probably nuts and.
Sure, we could pizza. I'm sure we can arrange something. No, that would be cool to do, actually. I would love to do that. Yeah, I really, really would. But I mean, in terms of how you see comics and games kind of like working together, what do you think about that?
Well, I can't say too much about Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
But we're exploring things.
Okay.
Certainly in Velocity 2X, we had comic stills as told as cutscenes, which these are our...
I love the art style.
Still cutscenes.
Yeah, I love the art
on the wall. I mean, the amount of budget you've got to play with determines how much sugar you can pour on stuff. But Go on.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think the good thing about comics is that I think they're more cost efficient to produce than almost any other form of media. And I think, well, I mean, 20 years ago, anything was possible in a comic, maybe not in film.
Yes.
Today it's different, so pretty much everything is achievable, but it's
hella expensive.
Yeah, hella expensive. Maybe less expensive, but a comic, I guarantee you, is even less expensive.
Yeah.
So you can produce a 100-page comic for. I'm just trying to do some maths in my head whilst talking. For a fraction of the cost.
Go on, give us a number.
A 100-page comic might cost, say, a 120-page comic might cost 20 or 30 grand, for example.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, as a ballpark.
So put 2 zeros on that.
Yeah, really.
And for a game.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So I mean, doing a new IP or a new idea in a comic form to kind of pitch, whether it's TV, film, or games, it seems to be working for people at the moment. I heard a story actually. Have you seen the film Oblivion?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think as an aside?
I love it.
I love that film so much,
and the soundtrack is phenomenal.
I know. And the ending, anyway, yeah, I could go on about that film for a while. Mixed reviews, but I love that film.
They're all wrong.
They're all wrong, aren't they? They don't know what they're talking about. But apparently that film was a comic that never got made.
Oh, wow.
I heard a story somewhere. And someone, again, can maybe correct me or just tell me I'm completely wrong. But they made the comic to pitch the movie, and it was this new comic, blah, blah, blah. They did the big launch, big release, and then it just went straight to film and never got released. So it's it's super interesting, right?
The next film he did, Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Was a graphic novel.
Was it?
Called, going to get it wrong now.
Yeah, I should know this.
All You Need Is Kill.
Oh, right. I actually didn't know this. I should. I didn't.
Because that film is fucking great.
Yeah, it was called something different in the States. Was it called something different in different territories? I think I watched it.
I think it was called All You Need Is Kill, Edge of Tomorrow.
Okay.
Or something like that.
That was a good film. That was the Groundhog Day alien thing, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was a good film.
Well, I think there's a sequel coming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
With the original cast.
I'd probably watch anything with Tom Cruise in, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand the hate, really.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yes, he can act strange sometimes, but don't judge the man, judge his work.
Not in the movies. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's clearly he's an adrenaline junkie. Like, I don't know if you've heard about the Mission Impossible stuff, and that was
flying a helicopter upside down or some shit.
Oh my god! Yeah. Wow. Wow.
And climbing to the top of
Mission Impossible 2. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that,
what's that? Something Khalifa. What's the building
Burj
called?
Khalifa, yeah. He did the Mission Impossible 2 one, then the Burj Khalifa one, which
it
actually added more drama to the scene, actually, which is kind of cool. Like, you assume it's done in a certain way or it's a stuntman. The fact that it's not kind of adds an extra layer of tension to that. But
and that's part of the marketing campaign, is he shows you what he's been doing and what he's been getting up to.
Yeah, I mean, I draw that.
I know what was the last one? He was holding on onto the side of a
plane,
a military plane.
Yeah, he was.
Nuts.
Yeah. Oh my god. He's good though. He's great.
I love him.
I mean, I gotta say,
I've got no shame in loving Tom Cruise.
No, I don't either. And Mission Impossible 1, I think, is underrated. I think it's one of the best in the series. I don't know if you remember the first one.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think?
Not as good as 3.
3 was the Philip Seymour Hoffman one, right? That opening scene was insane. That opening scene was a movie in itself. It was some of the best acting ever. That was a really good film, actually.
Philip Seymour Hoffman was so terrifying in that film.
Yeah, right. And then you see him as a much softer character in other films. He was a really good actor. He was a really good actor, actually.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tom Cruise. Did you see him on Top Gear?
He won, did he?
Yeah, he just came in and just pissed over everybody's scores.
I can just imagine his agents walking and going, Tom Cruise has to win, like, whatever you do.
Yeah, maybe.
But no, I mean, it feeds into his image. But also, I'm not half surprised. He probably practiced for a year before turning up to Top Gear or something. But
it's just the way he bounced over that last last bend.
His Mission Impossible kind of like VFX crew into... No, but he's really, really
undeniable.
Good. Yeah. But games and films, they don't work so well together as I've understood it.
Well, things are starting to change there.
Okay.
So John Wick, Hex.
John Wick, wow.
Yeah. So John Wick, wow. John Wick, Hex, also wow.
Yeah.
Made by a small team, headed by Mike Bithell,
Wow.
who's a very well-known indie developer. And he's managed to do something, he and his team have managed to pull off a bit of a coup in the fact that they've taken this giant IP and they've done quite a niche, stylistically brave, but a game with high integrity. They've been inspired by the source material, and done a game that actually suits the spirit of John Wick, but not what people would have expected.
Yeah.
So like it's a real-time strategy game,
Interesting.
not a brawler or a shoot 'em up
Like, do you remember
or an FPS,
like the Matrix game, like that interim game,
which was naff.
It kind of was. I was getting kicks off it for a while, but I wasn't Neo, so I wasn't happy. But it was very like the Matrix, and it was very high spec. And is this so? How does this work?
Nothing like it. You're at an elevated position. The camera's looking down on the scene, and you plan your moves.
Yeah.
And then the moves execute.
Oh, cool.
And the moves execute in cutscenes, which is pretty sexy.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like a little bit RPG, a little bit.
The idea is that you're playing as John Wick's mind, figuring out what he's going to do. You're not just running into a bunch of baddies and mashing the button.
Yeah.
So there's integrity to this.
Yeah.
And it was executed at a small scale, but really well. And people are waking up to that.
Yeah.
Hollywood's waking up to it, because suddenly now they don't have to spend, or a publisher doesn't have to spend tens of millions to make a game that's going to suck.
Yeah.
Because it's rushed out in time to meet the film.
Yeah, for sure. No, totally agree. So, I mean, I like that angle, almost the strategy angle, and it's less kind of button bashing, and it's more, and actually, I haven't played the game, but there's scope there. Like, there might not be just one way to do that move execution.
Indeed, yeah.
But if you miscalculate, have you I don't know, gone?
Well, it's on the Epic Game Store, so I've not actually played it, but I've watched the hell out of all the promotional materials and trailers and stuff. So I don't know. I'm
intrigued by the art style more than anything. Of course I am. I'm just going to write this down. What's it called? Hex.
John Wick Hex, yeah.
Okay. Look at that.
It's cool.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, games and films are on an interesting path.
Because it's interesting because it started off as films, games to films. I haven't enjoyed necessarily to the degree that I wanted to.
Street Fighter. Do you not enjoy that? Van Damme?
No, I didn't.
It was bad. Yeah.
It was bad. Mortal Kombat was bad.
I'm a huge Van Damme fan, so
it's okay.
I let it pass, but it sucked.
I mean, Tom Cruise, but Van Damme is cool. Van Damme is very cool. He's very cool. I like him in the beer ad. But no, there was Doom, and there was Assassin's Creed, and
Mario. Dreadful.
I was like 7 when that came out, and I loved it. I did. Looking back, it was dreadful. But no, none of them. I mean, the first Tomb Raider, the Angelina Jolie one, that again was averagely reviewed, but I kind of liked it. She does look the part. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
But they haven't none of them have really. I mean, Assassin's Creed, I didn't see. It was it looked like everything had been thrown at that film, and the reception wasn't great. And I'm talking very objectively here because everyone likes different stuff, and it could have been awesome to someone. But like, I'm not a fan of talking about someone else's creation in a negative light, because it's kind of anyway. I mean, they haven't received the acclaim that I thought they would off the back of the games, because the games are so high profile. But this is interesting because this is film to game. It's the opposite almost in a way. And is that going to happen more, do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
now that people have seen what's happened with John Wick, definitely.
Well, I suppose Peaky Blinders.
We're doing Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, that's kind of the same dynamic, right?
Yeah.
TV to game. So when's the EastEnders game going to come out? Is the question.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
Would you? I'll do a comic of an EastEnders.
Sonic the Hedgehog did well.
Yeah. I mean, admittedly, I haven't seen it just yet, but it looked.
I'm keen to see it, to be honest.
I'm very keen to see it. I mean,
Yeah.
Jim Carrey looks like he was very well cast, and,
Yeah.
and Sonic looked good in the end. So there was that.
It made me laugh. The trailer made me laugh.
Yeah.
And that's rare for a comedy.
Yeah, they added a whole. I mean, Sonic was the first game I ever played on the Mega Drive, the first Sonic, and I watched the cartoon when I was a kid, and they did a really good job of capturing the character of Sonic. The film looks like it's gone to the next level and added another dimension to Sonic, and I really like it. I mean, I don't know if he ever has his chili dogs in this or not, but there's a few different things that I'm kind of going to be looking out for. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing that for sure.
I want to see him do in Sonic 2, you pull down and rev him up.
Yeah, right.
I want to see that. And that sound, you could just,
Yes.
how high pitched can I get that sound?
Yeah. And, as a kid, you're like, this is infinite. This key can go as fast as he wants. But, it's, anyway, game mechanics. But no, I'll look forward to watching Sonic for sure. And, likewise in comics, I think comics to movies, comics to TV are a big thing. I think it's less the other way around.
There's a lot, yeah. Is it Image? Is it Image doing a lot of Netflix stuff?
Yeah, I mean,
IDW is doing.
Lock and Key with
Yeah.
IDW came out recently, and I think that was in the works for a while. I don't know, but
There's another one as well that came out before Lock and Key.
I should know this. It's ringing.
I've forgotten the name of
I
it.
do know this. I'll come back to you on this
Yeah.
because this conversation is making me look bad right now.
No, that's all right.
I'm kidding.
Just winging it.
Yeah, was it a Netflix show? It was Netflix, though,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's almost a week before Lock and Key.
Yeah, it was really recent. I remember.
It was the murdering zombie, the parents the parents that are monster killers.
I'll go and find it. Actually, The Walking Dead was a really good example.
Yeah.
Actually, Walking Dead was a really good example. And I think there's some more stuff coming out. So that's going to be cool to watch.
So do you have I imagine you've achieved your first goal, which was to be able to walk into a shop and see your work on the shelf.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What's the next big goal if you've got one?
That is a really good question. I mean, that was always the dream, and I saw it as kind of like there's an element of luck in anything, and I think with the Username Eevee project, I got really lucky really early in terms of exposure, in terms of sales, in terms of book on shelf and things like that. It's a usually slightly longer of a curve, so I got lucky in that respect. And but going forward, I hadn't planned further than that, and it kind of happened really quickly. I think the key for me is to focus less on. Starting off, it was about earning money from something that you loved, and then seeing that on the shelf, and then inspiring other people to maybe produce things like that, or just inspire other people generally. And now it's more become about stories and things that I want to do.
Okay.
So whereas it's still the case that a lot of the work is kind of work for hire or work based on someone else's script, but I mean a lot of the brand work, so say the Adobe work, for example, or the Adidas work, it's not necessarily comic, it's illustrative, but they basically come to me and they're just totally open to ideas. So they can give me a really, for the Adidas stuff, it was to do with the Adidas Predator, and it was this whole Unfair campaign. So they sent me the brief, they sent me kind of a little bit about what they were doing in the broader scheme of things, and then it was up to me to come up with the baseline concept, to kind of pitch the idea and to come up with, and I like building that from scratch. So I think things that I feel passionate about producing, and it's not that I don't feel passionate about any of the other work that I've done actually, but something genuinely means something to me. And I normally make any project, I normally make it mean something to me, but when something actually means something to you, it's a different thing. So something that I love, I really love, something that's kind of mine, that's kind of probably my next step.
Do you have any of your own stories that you want to get out there?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a story in me for years, and I just always focused on the visual side of it to kind of, for every way that I could write it, I can think of 50 people that are better at writing than me. So I would probably collaborate with someone to a degree.
But you've got a concept.
Yeah. 2019 was a trying year. So I will definitely be feeding some of that into this, and it kind of builds upon it. So yeah, it will happen eventually. It really, really will. I mean, I think a lot of comic writers do this, and they'll come up with a baseline premise, a dynamic, and a framing, and really whether it's dressed up as a Western or as a vampire story or as a post-apocalyptic futuristic kind of thing, like the baseline story is still the same. So I'm really focusing on nailing the A to B to C and character. For now, it's going to be a slow process for me because I want to get it right. And I want to try and avoid the done not perfect thing. I'm gonna go for the perfection, which will never happen. But it will be the best I can make it. Probably 5 years or so. But yeah, I will definitely work on that. How about you?
I've got a dream game.
Dream game.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the dream game?
Probably not.
Okay.
It's too big. It's too. It's high concept, highbrow. Very arty, but I've written probably a third of a novel.
Okay.
To try and get some of the ideas out. And since I've met you and Simon, I'm thinking maybe we should try a graphic novel first.
That would be cool. That'd be
and that's why I'm thinking Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, yeah.
Tippy Top Scotland
with the beer.
With the beers and the pizzas.
Yeah.
Because I know that Simon's got the conceptual muscle.
He does.
To extract it from me.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do like a funded trip.
So I mean, what would I mean? Is this what's the? I'm curious about the dream. Is the dream the idea? Is it an experience you fed into this? Is it the end product? Is it the result? What's the dream?
So the dream is a triptych. You familiar with that word?
No.
Okay.
I should be.
So traditionally it's a piece of art that happens over 3 canvases.
Okay.
A trilogy is 3 films. A triptych is 3 pieces of art.
Okay.
But they're related. So I want to do a triptych, which is a video game, a movie, and then an experience. And this is something that I came up with at university, and I poured enormous amounts of time into it, and I've dragged friends that I thought could help me into it over the years, and started FuturLab to make it. It's the game that we pitched to Sony in 2007. We did our role-playing pitch, dressed up in posh suits. First time we'd ever worn suits.
Yeah.
Dressed up in suits. All of our pitch materials were branded to a fictional company in this world.
Oh, cool.
And we travelled up from Brighton to Liverpool to see them in Liverpool. But our opening gambit was, thank you for travelling all this way to see us in person. Your CV was by far the most impressive.
Yeah. So
we flipped the script on them. And they were really impressed by that, but they didn't sign it. And I've been, because it's hugely ambitious, and every game we've made has been a step towards improving our credibility, improving our experience, building our team to try and reach that level.
Interesting. So like Gary Vee wants to buy the jets.
He does want to buy the jets.
This is your jets in a way. I want to make this game. And I'm going to.
It is. Yeah.
Awesome. That's such an amazing. That's such an amazing thing to have a driver, something that you just need to achieve, and everything else. It's not to say that everything else in between is collateral or it's just a build up to it. It kind of is, but it's building your mileage. It's building the. Surely it refines the vision as well, and it makes you realize what is possible, what won't work so well maybe.
Oh my God. If I look at the pitch materials that we put together in 2007, they're hilarious because we were completely naive.
Yeah.
But the core concept is still super tight. And it's one of those ideas that when you read it, it's so obvious that you think someone's gonna do this.
Yeah.
And every couple of years something comes out, whether it's a film or a game, and I'm like, fuck, they've done it.
Oh.
And they haven't. But the trailer or the marketing materials or something alludes to something similar.
Yeah,
And I'm like, damn it, I missed my boat. But it's not there. It's not the same.
And it's the execution as well. It is the execution as well. I felt that pain of having pitched a really cool space story a few years ago, and it was just the publisher was keen, everything was going well, and then Interstellar came out. What's the other one? The Matt Damon one. That one came out, and then Gravity came out, and then it was just in the water, and I was like, oh no,
damn.
But it's ups and downs. It will come back around again. So we'll just hold on to it until then. But yeah, I can imagine something that's been baking for so long. So when are you going to make it?
Don't know. I mean, this project that we're working on with you is a big step towards it from what we've been working on before. So we need to do that first, and that will show publishers that we're capable of doing this bigger vision.
The demos look amazing. Like the
it's getting there.
It looks really cool.
It's getting there.
Yeah. Is any of that hit the public domain?
No.
So, yeah, okay.
No.
Okay.
We might. The plan is to start sharing it.
Okay.
But we've got a bit of time yet. But I would really love to get you and Simon
in a cabin.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds a bit seedy, but
I mean, is it a nice cabin? Is it like Pinewood cabin? Or
could be, yeah.
Yeah. I'd be up for that. I'd definitely be up for that. Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
Let's do it.
What else should we talk about?
I'm just trying to... I mean, I did have a question for you, actually. Why games over any... Because you mentioned the novels and the graphic novels and things like that as well. Why was it games that you chose?
Because I'm going to get paid.
Yeah. Is it a good sector to get paid in?
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely.
It's not doing too bad.
I don't think we're in that bracket to be paid lots, but I did fine art at university, and part of that was art history. So I studied all of the different art movements, right from, stretching back in time. And what was very evident was that art movements were kicked off and defined by the technology that was available at the time. So oil paintings took off, particularly landscapes, when the lead paint tube was invented.
Interesting.
Because people could just take their tubes and go out and start painting landscapes.
It's like the iPad of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whilst I was at university studying art history, it was very clear that video games were not part of the curriculum because it was too new.
Yeah.
But I'd learned enough to know that, these people making oil paintings were making a decent living from patrons that were paying them to paint ceilings and, So where are you going to get paid as an artist?
Yeah. This is, I'm glad you mentioned this was a whole thing for me as well. It's hard to monetize creativity. I think it's really hard. Actually.
I think that if there's a book in me, it's how do you navigate the world as a creative person? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think I'd love to write a book like I had a title, it's gone. I probably shouldn't mention it actually. It's a cool title. But the idea of actually, I think, and I speak so broadly here, and this is not every artist or any, I know lots of professional artists. But the hardest thing I think is letting go of perfection and almost letting go of your creative integrity to a degree to be able to actually, I mean, for an artist, and I assume it's the same for me, I think the faster you are at being good, the easier this then becomes. So if you can produce things really well quite quickly, you're in with a good chance of getting a mortgage. I don't know, whatever your goal is.
If you pick the right vocation, right?
Yeah,
because you could easily just be sat. You could just as easily be doing caricatures on the beach and really struggling to make a crust.
Yeah, I mean that's just a roll of the dice. If I'm honest, that's really, really hard. That's hard. So I could never. I mean, even to a degree, I think the comic convention circuit, I know so many artists that make, that they make good money doing kind of the comic conventions and sketches and things like that.
Yeah.
It was just something I couldn't ever really get on with. It was just kind of like and I admire those people so much for being able to do that. But for me, I just couldn't get into the rhythm of just rolling the dice every weekend or every other weekend and just seeing what kind of came back. It felt too, it didn't feel stable.
Yeah.
So kind of, and I think you might have done the same thing with this, and you've picked something that I mean, not to downgrade your endeavors, say easy to monetize, but I mean, I guess you've picked something that sounds like a good in between balance of creativity, but also kind of, being able to, I mean, what you've got here is fantastic, and what you produce is fantastic. So
getting there.
Yeah, you got a good balance of everything. So yeah, that's the hardest thing.
Picking a vibrant market where there's plenty of sparks flying.
Yeah, no, totally. And like, I think I got real lucky again, if I'm honest, timing wise. I mean, publishing typically, as I understand it, isn't the most lucrative market. But the comics, movies, few of which I've actually drawn for. I mean, I worked with Disney on some Infinity War stuff, and Disney were doing the distribution for the Glass movie actually, so that was through them as well.
Awesome.
But I haven't drawn a Spider-Man comic, but because of the Spider-Man movie, the work that I've done in graphic novels has kind of been boosted and elevated, and it became that because of those movies more than
Right.
It was super interesting actually the way that kind of all went down, and it was a series of really, really good, well-timed things that just happened by accident. That
Do you reckon there's a boom in comics then?
I mean, define boom, I guess. First of all, I think there's a boom for the comics material. And this is just an opinion. I could be so wrong. I think I can see some financial officer of a comic company going, "You're just so wrong. You don't know what you're talking about." But my view is that I think, I'm trying to word this correctly, I don't think comics are as popular as the movies, and I don't think they've fed into each other in the way that people had anticipated. First of all, people would turn up to a Comic-Con for the Rocket Raccoon merch or the Baby Groot, not necessarily for the Guardians of the Galaxy comic. I do think that's changing, but I do think that's born of the fact that the two worlds, the comic world and I'm using Marvel as an example because I do think they've managed to kind of cross-pollinate really, really well. They have. It's insane. But they don't marry up. Like, you pick up a Captain America comic and you watch the film, and there's almost zero correlation in how. And I think there are bigger, better brains than me that are probably working on this, probably already have worked on this, and I haven't paid attention or whatever. But if they were more closely intertwined, I think there would be more of a crossover between those audiences. More
of a boost in the comic sales, you mean?
Yeah, I do. But I think what is happening in comics is super interesting. It's almost becoming it's like a space to generate new concepts, ideas, IPs.
Fertile ground.
Yeah. And it's like I say, it's
Netflix just running around going, this
greenlight everything. Here we go. All these comics are greenlight. Yeah. But I think it's a good space to kind of like, in a more cost-effective manner than other forms of media, produce new ideas.
Right.
And Oblivion and Edge of Tomorrow are good examples of that as well. Lock and Key. I think Stranger Things became a comic from the TV. I don't know which way around that worked, but
not sure.
But yeah, there's lots of cross games, comics, film. Yes, it's all very.
When I was trying to learn about comics, I went to Dave's comic shop in Brighton, and I asked, "Do you think the Marvel movies are doing it right? And if they're not, what are they getting wrong?" And the guy said, "I've not watched any of the movies. They're sort of irrelevant. They're for the people out there. I do what I do, run a comic shop. Those are for the mass market. I'm like, it has to be that way because they've got to sell lunchboxes and duvets and.
But to a degree, and I've not met Dave.
It might not have been Dave actually. It might have been Dave.
Oh, I see.
One of Dave's employees, but yeah.
Okay, but I mean, to a degree, there is an element of that thinking that keeps comics small, by going that's mainstream. The implication is this isn't mainstream, and that's why the sales aren't translating. So in a way, that's almost part of the problem. Right. I.e., comics are comics, and everything else is everything else. Like. That's just an opinion, just off the top of my head from what you've said. But yeah, and I mean, I think comics has been seen as like a geeky niche, and maybe not in the States, in the UK. Like when I was a kid, when I was 10, I would hide my comics and I'd take them home and then I'd read them, and it wasn't necessarily something to be proud of. And now people are so interested in the things that I do. I don't know if it would have been if Instagram existed 20 years ago. I don't think people would care in the UK, at least, about comics to the degree they do. The US market's huge. The collector market's huge. I mean,
it's a cultural thing there, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it was there was a collector's market, which I do think has dwindled. There was an original art market and a collector's market. I do think is dwindling because there's just so many comics out there at the moment, and there's so many alternate covers to collect, and there's so many kind of like marketing strategies and tactics, and there's so many digital artists as well now. That I don't know. I'd probably have to speak to those artists that still do well off of that. But yeah, no, there are elements that are kind of dwindling, and I feel like I'm more of a production artist than it's actually digital art. You lose some of the craft of the paper and the texture and the inks and the smell. Even just the smell is and just using like an artboard to produce all of the panels. And people, I know artists that spend couple of days, 2 or 3 days, who still work with pencil, still work with things on a page.
You're reminding me of Chasing Amy.
Oh yeah? Oh right, yeah. Oh yeah. I haven't seen that in years actually.
I need to see that again.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, that is good.
Sorry, carry on.
But yeah, that 2 or 3 days to produce a page, it can be done in 2 or 3 hours. Wow. 4 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
A day kind of max. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's with where the team comes in. So someone to help finish the pages, to color the pages. That you're not doing everything by yourself. You can move a lot more quickly through that. But there is an art form that's being lost somewhere in there for a new art form, and it's not to say it's less valid. It's just to say, there's art like there's horses and paintings and stuff, and then. That's kind of the digital production side of it, which it's just not quite the same, but it works for me. I own it and I'm happy with that. I love it, to be honest. I like working. I mean, without a deadline, nothing ever gets done. So I do like a good deadline.
Do you gift comics to your family and friends and things?
Do I get? Yeah, I absolutely do. Yeah, I do. Sometimes do sketches for people as well and things like that. So what was the last one I did? And actually, it's quite cool because some of the kind of like the clients that I work with, so the people working for those companies occasionally end up commissioning me kind of privately, which is quite nice. It's nice. It's a nice.
That's great.
Thing. It is nice. It's really nice to kind of do a personal thing as well as a kind of more of a professional thing. So there's that nice balance there. I assume it's not as easy to make a game for your family for Christmas, and I don't know.
God, yeah. Pretty much every time I go and see my mum for Christmas, she's like, "When are you going to paint me a picture?"
Oh yeah, I've had that. Yeah, I've had that.
Never.
You
need to get over that, Mum.
Yeah, you should do one for your mum. You should.
I made her some music and she didn't like it.
Well, there you go then. Maybe she's not getting a painting. She could have pretended.
Yeah. I did have another question. It's gone from my mind. Something to do with Dave's comics. Oh yeah. So when I was trying to figure out what comics were again, and remind myself, I watched this video called How to Get Into Comics on YouTube. And it was amazing. It completely opened the door for me to be able to know where to start. And I really think that comic shops should have that video running. Because the number
Where did it tell you where to start? Where did it, out of interest?
Sorry?
Where did it tell you to start? I'm curious.
It said, well, first of all, it laid down the difference between singles and trade volumes and graphic novels.
Yeah.
So I could understand what that was, what that meant. Then it talked about runs and the fact that, say, for example, Batman, there's been many, many different runs throughout history.
Like creative team run type thing.
A creative team.
Yeah.
So if you want to read Batman, you can pick a run and you can read maybe 30 to 60 comics that are part of that run. You don't have to read every single Batman comic, which was, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So that helped break down some of the barriers.
I mean, I didn't even think I mean, I just kind of know that I didn't even think that would be a barrier. It's a barrier to entry, isn't it? The size of the of the material. Okay.
It's because you don't. What was the example he gave? I think it was something like, how do you get into Harry Potter, or how do you get into Game of Thrones? Well, Game of Thrones, you just watch the first episode.
Yeah.
But how do you get into Batman comics?
Yeah.
Do you have to start with the very first Batman comic?
Yeah, I mean,
which frankly looks a bit naff if you're into modern aesthetics.
Yeah.
So that was an eye-opener. I thought, okay, I can pick a run that I like the sound of and I like the art, and I can just jump in there. That was the second thing. Third thing was, what was the third thing? Damn it.
I mean, those two things are really good, to be fair. I mean, the run thing is super helpful.
Yeah.
Is it like a character thing, or was it like a genre thing?
Oh, third thing was, he did a quick 5 to 10 second for every genre that you might be interested in. So like, if you're into sci-fi, check out these comics. If you're into westerns, check out these comics. If you're into family oriented, check out these comics. So maybe 2 minutes worth of recommendations. That's what you need as a beginner. You just want to get in there and pick your genre that you like.
Genre or character or for me, artist or writer or something like that. Like, that's a. I mean, what did you pick up? What was the first thing you picked up?
I picked up Lazarus.
Okay.
Because that was sci-fi.
Yeah.
Watchmen.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, Blade Runner.
Oh,
the recent Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
That looked gorgeous. That was really,
It looks great.
Yeah, it looked really good.
What's the other one? I mean, I bought a load of comics.
I mean, they're really good choices. They are good choices. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Titan did the Blade Runner thing, didn't they? Yeah. Yeah, some of those covers looked amazing, actually.
It looks great.
Yeah.
And they got Sid Mead to do one, didn't they?
I think
Before he passed away.
I think so, yeah. I mean, unpopular opinion, I was never a fan of the first Blade Runner movie. I watched it when I was too young, but I watched it back.
It's long ass.
Yeah, I watched it as an adult, and I kind of liked it more. And then I had a talk with someone who refused to accept that I didn't like the film, and then started to kind of break it down a lot more. And now I love it as a concept, and I need to rewatch it, actually. I haven't seen the new one yet. I need to watch the new one. I know, dude. I know. I like Ryan Gosling. I like the material, and I'm looking forward to it. But I want to rewatch the first one first. I don't know which edition to watch, which cut to watch.
Final cut.
It's Final Cut. Okay, that sounds super simple.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blade Runner 20. I watched it maybe 7 times in the cinema.
Wow,
It's
really?
an audiovisual feast.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I need
Sound is great, music's great.
Yeah.
And it lingers in a beautiful way on beautiful shots. So as an artist, you're going to appreciate the spectacle of it.
Oh, nice. I mean, I felt that way about the Joker film, the recent Joker film, actually.
That's a film.
Whew. I mean, I've never cheered so hard for like the baddest guy in the world to kind of like destroy it. It's just
disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah, I was genuinely elated for him to become who he. I don't know. And
I know exactly the moment you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But what I really liked about it more so is the spoilers. I don't think so. In all the other Batman films, the Wayne family is kind of very much elevated, and very aspirational, and very not angelic, but quite pure.
Pillar of society.
Yeah, and this just flipped the perspective entirely, and I really loved that, just to see a completely different version of this, because that's probably just as true as the other version, and that was nice. That was good.
When DC get it right, they get it super right.
Super right.
It's just not many hits.
But they were leading cinema for decades, like for years. I mean, even the original Batman films, they were great films. Superman, the Superman films, the Richard Donner stuff.
True.
And meanwhile, you know, I think on the flip side, there was a Captain America movie, wasn't there?
There was also that weird TV Spider-Man.
I wasn't going to mention that, but yes, there was the weird TV Spider-Man.
The live action.
Where he did the web and then like it changed shot and this like rope just like flew across the screen.
Yeah.
It was the 70s though, to be fair. It was the 70s, but it was, and then he climbed the wall, but he clearly wasn't climbing a wall. I mean, they did a good job with what they had, I'd imagine. But
that weird funk music as well.
Yeah, but that's only on a par
funk cymbals.
That's on a par with the Batman of the day.
True.
But yeah, no, and then DC, I mean, I loved the film. I loved the Watchmen film.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved it. I did feel sorry for the people that had never read the graphic novel that watched that film, because I just can't see how they would have understood the film. And maybe I'm patronizing, I don't know, but you needed to read it.
I've got it, but I've not read it yet. I'm halfway through V for Vendetta.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good.
The graphic novel.
Yeah, it's really good. But Watchmen, they're both on a par. They're both absolute classics. I'd be interested to see what you thought of the graphic novel versus the movie.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay, no more. Let me know. Can't say. But visually, that film was, incredible. I thought it was really, really good. And there was that scene with Dr. Manhattan where he's kind of goes to Mars, and there's the music, and it's really, really like intense kind of classical track. And I think it's from another film. It's a Russian track, and I could never pronounce it, with a degree of coherence. But yeah, it's very intense. I love that scene. It's maybe one of my favorite scenes in cinema just ever. It's just great.
They're making the new Matrix.
Yeah, I do. It was always going to come.
Fingers crossed.
It was always going to come. But I don't know anything about the I haven't looked into it at all. I don't know. I assume it's some kind of second coming, I would imagine. I have no idea. But I did like the first trilogy. I did like the last film. What did you think?
I thought the trilogy was good.
I mean, the first is always going to be, amazing. The second was a visual masterpiece, but it was a bridge film, and I don't feel like.
I mean, that action sequence that starts.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what is it? It starts on the motorway, the freeway.
Yeah. That's an amazing sequence.
Music kicks in.
Yeah.
God, damn. And it ends with Neo just swooping in from. Ooh, not the camera. That's bad.
Yeah. That's okay. Dramatic.
Swooping in from the Tibet or something.
Yeah, right.
Grabs them at the last second. It's like, and who is it that just goes yes?
Yeah, it's the
operator.
Yeah.
He's the audience of that.
Yeah, that is a good film. And then there's even the whole thing with is it the Nebuchadnezzar where they're kind of flying through, or is that the third one? I'm getting confused now, I think. But no, it was the second one actually, because they end up with Smith. There's no spoilers for the Matrix.
Yeah, Smith's in the Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, it's okay. You can't spoil the Matrix anymore, can you? No. But the third one, I thought was a great conclusion to the whole thing. I did.
Yeah. I mean, it started so high.
Yeah.
It dropped a couple of steps, but it was still better than most films.
Yeah, right.
That were released at that time.
It was the closest thing visually in live action to Dragon Ball Z that I'd ever found, the ending. So I was like, this is my thing. Yeah.
So they were very inspired by comics, right? But there wasn't actually a Matrix comic, was there?
I don't think it was. I think it was based on a comic, but it probably could have been.
Maybe they storyboarded it like a comic.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I actually don't know. I would have picked up a Matrix comic if it was there, but also, how old was I when the first one came out? What was it, 99?
Yeah.
I think I was about 14, 13, maybe. I might
no way.
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah,
I think I was 20. 19, 20.
I mean, maybe I was about, I'm pretending I'm 29 and I'm not. But yeah, no, great films. I look forward to the next. I mean, John Wick is so good. I mean, in a way, I kind of don't want to see Keanu Reeves go back to that character. He's kind of like built upon it so much, and he's. But yeah, I'll definitely, of course, I'll watch it. I would always watch a Matrix film, see what it's like. I just wonder. I mean, it concluded fairly. It was a solid. It concluded.
It ended.
Yeah, like it was. There was. I mean, if it was the first Matrix and the second one 20 years later or whatever, fine. But that film ended like perfectly, maybe not, but it ended, and I just wonder what they're going to do with it. Like,
it's intriguing.
Some kind of like symbolic second coming of, or if it, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to watch it.
We'll have to watch
it. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to show you Peaky Blinders.
Yes, let's see it.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah. I've started watching the show, actually. I'm kind of on the second season, actually, at the moment.
It's great.
It's great. Cillian Murphy?
Killian.
He's amazing. He's an amazing actor. Have you seen Sunshine with him?
Yeah.
Whew, that film. It's like a horror film. It is actually. It turns into a horror film, actually. But it's, woof, that is an intense film.
It's an amazing film into the last, in my opinion, last 2 minutes. It gets a bit silly.
Do you think?
Yeah.
See, I is that the hysteria? Is that I mean, the journey they've gone on, is that I kind of liked it. I don't know, because it blurs reality and it starts to blur the lines between what is and isn't real. Yeah, but at one point you don't really know what's real and what's not, right? Did you feel that way? Or did you take it literally?
No, I took it pretty literally that he's just a guy burnt to a crisp, gone insane.
But could it also be madness? Entirely madness?
Maybe.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders. Let's do that. That's more literal. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
No, thanks for having me. This has been
a pleasure.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And I think we should definitely do that cabin.
Yeah.
I'm going to start planning it.
Cabin in the woods. Let's do it. And I hope some of the crap I said on this gets edited out.
No edits.
No. Okay.
Well, I might throw in some images.
All right. Cool. Yeah. That sounds good. Yeah. My images.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds really good. We could do like a process thing, actually, like a step-by-step process. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Let's do it again.
Cheers.
Cheers.